Insurance Town. I'm the Mayor Heath Sheeran and the host of this here podcast. I am super pumped you're here hanging out with me today on the show because I've got my good friend Nick Lamparelli, the man, the myth, the legend, coming to hang out with us in the program. I've known this guy and followed his career for a long time, but really just met him in person for the first time a couple of weeks back, maybe a month or so back, and just hit it off. And he's got a lot to share and a lot to bring you up to speed on, and just some cool things to talk to you about today. So I can't wait for you to hear that. Before I do, I've got to talk to you about my good friends over at Smart Choice. These guys are just unbelievable. The fastest growing agency network, hands down. And that is because they do it for you. And they want to help you to be successful as quickly as possible. I'm telling you guys, smartchoiceagents.com. You got to go check it out. They help you by raising your commissions, lowering your premium and volume commitments, and helping you get bonuses quicker. It's pretty awesome, pretty self-explanatory. You got to check it out. Also, my good friends over at Canopy Connect. Love these guys. They are doing some big time things. Go to usecanopy.com/Heath and check out a demo and get a discount because, again, these guys are absolutely killing it. They help you to get deck pages that you need to quote your prospects. They also help you get loss runs, driver's list. They help you get stuff together with your referral partners so you can have them a link that they can send to their clients. Oh my gosh, there's so many things that they do that you need to get involved in. Go to usecanopy.com/Heath. And guys, I got to get out of the way. I could keep going about all of my sponsors because I love them all, but I got to get into this conversation here with my main man, Nick Lamparelli. Nick Lamparelli, what's happening, brother?
Recording in progress, Heath. I've been waiting
Yes.
for this. I could not wait.
Dude. I me as well. I have, known of you and followed your career for a long time now through our mutual buddy in Brett Fulmer, and he just always speaks so highly of you. And so I'm going to try to figure out why. I'm just kidding. But anyhow,
I'm gonna try to figure out why.
That sounds awesome. So you're in Florida now, right?
Yes. Yes.
How long have you been there now? Is this a new thing for you?
3.5 years.
Yeah, you like it?
There are things that I like. We're getting to the season where I can now brag because it's, in the mornings it's 70 degrees in the morning, and the evenings are nice and cool, and I'm staring at a pool, and I theoretically could just like whip off my shirt right now and just go jump in. It's
nice.
So that's a real benefit, but holy crap, like the summers, you cannot
Brutal.
get prepared to the heat and the humidity. People talk about it, but like, listen, the humidity's so bad, things outside turn green from the mold. Like it's just moist.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah, and I know people hate that word, but you're just moist all the time.
All the time.
You're inside in air conditioning, and I'm sweaty.
Yeah,
it's gross.
I completely agree. I've spent actually 3 separate trips. That's the most I've ever done in one summer, but 3 or 4 separate trips to Florida this summer, and every time I'm like, oh, this is miserable humidity. I thought Arkansas had bad humidity. But I went to Key West, I went to Naples, and then the best is being up there in like Redneck Riviera, up in Destin and Panama City.
Yeah.
That's not near as bad. But down there south,
it's basically South Georgia, right? So it's a different state.
But down there in South Florida, my goodness, like I'd walk outside from one building to another or to my car, and I'd be drenched. So it sucks. But I will say, good or bad, you have a front row seat to the shit show that is insurance in Florida by living there. You see all the carriers pulling out, and you see, the moratoriums, and you see the the storms. You see all of the just what I call the circus of Florida insurance industry. And so, I
Feel
mean,
it.
but
I have lunch with agents and brokers here, so I hear the pain points that they're going through. I'll have many of them will reach out to me. A lot of them will reach out to me like, Nick, we got to find a solution for this. Like, I
yeah,
can't keep going like this. What are we going to do? And I'm like, what do you mean? What are we going to do? And then I get yanked into it.
yeah, totally get it. Okay, so people are listening right now are loving this conversation already, but they're like, who's this Nick Lamparelli guy? People that don't know, they've been living under a rock. Why don't you take us a walk down memory lane? And why don't you let us know who's Nick Lamparelli and how'd you get to where you are today?
Yeah. So, listen, you haven't been living under a rock if you don't know who I am. I'm probably more well known in other circles. I do have a lot of agents and brokers who I'm friends with. The Ryan Hanley, like, those folks who, I've gotten pretty close with over time. And most of those have like a technology bent. So Bradley Flowers, those guys who are technology oriented. So our Venn diagram of InsurTech has neatly crossed and we know each other and we talk to one another. Um,
Right.
but I cut my teeth in the agency world. So listen, I quit medical school. I was in an MD PhD program. My degree was in biology, and I had like basically a minor in chemistry. So I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew it was going to be something health oriented. And when I got into an MD PhD program, and when I got in, I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. Like it was great to study it in college. I loved it. I'm numbers oriented. I love science. It just everything, all the pieces fit together. But it's like I can't go to school for another 8 years. I can't do it. And right
Yeah.
around that time, a friend of mine from high school was taking over his dad's insurance agency in the small city I grew up in. And he said the key words, he said, uh, you should join because everyone needs to buy insurance and you'll get rich. I think I only heard that last word.
Yeah.
Like I just heard that and I was like, rich, yes.
Right.
I need to be able to do that. So I did. Um, little did I know that that's not how any of this works at
Right.
all. But there was enough there. Like this was like during the dot-com boom. So
Mhm.
this was like I was becoming an amateur investor. I was reading books about Warren Buffett and economics and making like, my $100 bet on
Yeah.
Yahoo and some biotech companies. And I was like, this is my game here. This is my bag. This is what I want to do. So that scratched enough of an itch where, I'm talking to people about their homes and fires and it was close enough, right? Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
here's the thing, Heath. It was close enough, but not close enough. So while I was doing that, I always had a mind that I was going to get into like the finance world. I was going
Yeah.
to make the switch over. So I was preparing myself for that. So I'm working my way up the ladder and I'm doing, local mom and pop auto and homeowners. Then I'm doing, small commercial. Then I'm doing middle market. I'm now all of a sudden I'm a broker at Aon. I'm doing middle market. I'm occasionally engaging with the large property folks. I'm starting to see how some of this stuff is completely unfolding. I'm getting exposed to a different world. And but I'm still thinking I'm gonna work at a hedge fund someday. Like I'm gonna make that transition, but I could not quite make that smooth transition over. They didn't want me, right? Like what are we gonna do with a property casualty guy? They didn't want me. So the lucky break that I had, Heath, was um, one day someone described catastrophe models to me, and I looked them up, and I lived in the Boston area, and the second largest catastrophe modeling firm happened to be based in Boston. And when I looked them up, there was a career section and they were hiring, and they needed someone to come in who had insurance experience. And that was like the light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. I sent my resume in. They called me the next day. I'm sitting there in their office and I'm looking at all of their collateral, and it's all like the coolest stuff in the world. Like I'm back to college, back to the future with like earthquakes and hurricanes and the science behind it. And it was like I found my home. I made it. I made it to the mothership kind of thing. And that's what I did. I can't say love at first sight. That's weird, right? But it was like I used to tell people like it is like working at the Discovery Channel every day. Like I was learning something new every day, just eating it up like a vacuum, just sucking it all in. And as I was going through, Heath, like it was clear, like to me, like I found like I don't have to go into finance because all of a sudden I'm getting my clients on the consulting side were reinsurance brokers. So I am day to day dealing with Guy Carpenter, Aon, then Aon Benfield, Willis. Like these were the largest clients for these firms, and these firms beat the crap out of these models. These firms all hired scientists. They were looking for every which way to figure out how do these models work? How do we take advantage of it? How do we arbitrage the information? How do we help our carrier clients seed risk through the ecosystem to reinsurers in the most efficient way possible? Because that's how they get paid. They are brokers. And that's their job is to find the neatest, smoothest way for them to get reinsurance
Uh,
access. There's a lot of really bad decisions being made that are centered around tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars of transactions that are occurring, and they're making poor, inefficient, suboptimal decisions around that. I can do better. And so I went to, after that, I was senior modeler at Marsh in their analytics group. Then I was a senior modeler at QBE, handling their global reinsurance. But during that course, I got exposed to Hurricane Sandy in New York. I was watching how flood was being done, and I was like, this is my opportunity. No one knows how to underwrite flood. None of my peers know how to model flood. I have a clear window here where I'm the smartest guy in the room, I think. I kept trying to disprove myself, Heath, but I had that. So 6 years ago, I co-founded an MGA to take advantage and capitalize on the opportunity that I saw around flood insurance. We did that. I am still associated with that firm, but I have exited from day-to-day operations of that. And now my new role is I'm a managing partner of Insurance Nerds, which I think a lot of your audience might be familiar with.
yeah, there's so much to unpack there that I wanted to get into, and I was taking some notes there. And I'll guess I'll go back first, and then we'll get to where I want to really camp out for a little bit. But just to let the audience know, because there are some people, a lot of people in my audience that know insurance nerds, because I've had Brett on, and I've also had Tony Kanyas on, and we've talked about it. But just 1 minute, 30 seconds kind of sales pitch, whatever, so to speak, or whatever, of what is insurance nerds. Like, I didn't know y'all published books, but y'all have,
Yeah,
y'all have helped people
yeah.
publish their own books. Y'all also do podcasting. Y'all do lots of different things. It's not just like a cool kids club. It's like or a nerd kids club, so to speak. It is something bigger than that. So what is insurance nerds really quickly?
Yeah. So, Heath, a lot of folks who have reached out to me are like, oh, is Insurance Nerds a nonprofit? We're just so underassuming in the marketplace, but it's actually a business. We actually have a business model. It's just been underwhelming. But it is predominantly a content-oriented site, right? So it started off with Tony and Carly creating the blog. That's what attracted me was just like, wow, these two young kids really know how to write in an
Yeah.
engaging, entertaining way. I would like to participate with this. So I joined in 2017, I think, and I
Mm-hmm.
told them I will only join if you let me create a podcast. They were ecstatic because they're like, yes, we've wanted to do a podcast. So Tony's Profile and Risk podcast, was originally the one that I created. I think I did the first 150 episodes. Now it's up to 464, I think. But over that time period, we have published books. So, and we have a podcasting business now as well. So we have these like disparate businesses that have been kind of separated out. And my goal working with Tony is to create a united front around the business model. And so we're transitioning the site from content blog oriented to a community based site. So it'll be
Yeah, I
much
love
more
that.
community oriented and focused, where there'll be channels, and those channels will be run by community managers and they will be subject matter experts about that particular community.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I just, like I said, the more I learn about it as I've gotten to know the three of you, it's just really blown my mind of what all you guys do. One of the things I wanted to get back to is, again, it's a lot to unpack, but I was with you in Florida. We had the privilege of speaking at the PA of Florida event, and got to meet and get to know a wonderful man, Chris Franklin, and got to know a lot of great people there. And one of the things, I got to sit through your session and you got to sit through my session, which is very rare for me. I don't get to sit through other speaker sessions. So
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed your session. And you've already kind of alluded to some of this, but you had, talking about this idea of trusted advisors.
Yeah, I think it began at, when I discovered natural catastrophes. Um, I was able, so I was dealing with reinsurance brokers, but I also had brokers were my um, clients as well. So, the type of broker that's going to license a catastrophe model, it's going to be Marsh or Aon. These are seven-figure licensing fees. So they were really big, but I got to engage with like Marsh risk consultants, and I was watching how they operate. And for one thing, so this is Marsh, and this is an data and analytics group, and their engineers were grilling me, right? Like I'm in New York City with them, and we're training each other, and we're so hungry for information, right? So they'll have like the Walmart account, right? And their job is to communicate these risks to Walmart, to the risk manager that's at Walmart, and at a very high level. And what crossed my mind were two things, Heath. One was, wow, I'm actually very valuable to them. They are grilling me. They're asking me a ton of questions because they don't know the answer. Here are sophisticated engineers at Marsh Risk Consulting, and they need my guidance on explaining a 1 in 100 year loss. I can't even tell you, Heath, like how enlightening that is, because if a Marsh risk consultant engineer is struggling in how you compute and how you communicate a 1 in 100 year loss, average broker or agent can't do it.
Yeah.
It's apples and oranges. Like there's a disconnect there. And
Yeah.
it's not that it's rocket science. It's the statistical concepts are just difficult
Yeah.
to line up. Even I have to like think through like what does 100 year 1 in 100 year event mean? So that was one part. And then another part, as I got into my MGA space, I saw how agents and brokers were operating with flood, and how it was like, listen, it was extremely disappointing. It was very disappointing to watch brokers and agents sell flood insurance. Um, I can't even tell you how many times a broker would tell us, I asked them, they're not in a flood zone. So I asked them if they want it, and they said they didn't want it. So I have them sign the affidavit, and that was that. I'm just like, no, 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 absolutely not. Like, are you a producer or are you a producer? Like don't tell me you're a trusted advisor, and don't tell me that like you're this hefty salesperson if that's your route to sell flood, because every property has flood risk. It's a question of degree. And that does not, I am not indicating that you can sell flood insurance to everybody. I am not saying that at all. But there is a giant swath of the country that is exposed to significant levels of flood, Heath, and they are not in a flood zone. And if you let them walk out that agency with signing an affidavit saying, well, I'm on a hill, or I've lived in this house for 50 years and it has never flooded. If you're going to let them walk out, then you're not the salesperson you think you are, and you're definitely not a trusted advisor. So that was the impetus for that conversation, was like, I think I can bring a degree of translation value to the agency and the brokerage community, um, to help them
Yeah.
retain, especially in this hard market, to help them retain business, right? Like if you're a broker, if you're an agent and you're listening to this and you're in Florida, I'll use Florida, but this can be California, this can be anywhere. And you're placing business in citizens of Florida. How can you pat yourself on the back and claim you're a trusted advisor unless you are communicating to your customer in this very high level
Yeah.
around what their risks actually are? If your only choice is citizens, then your only choice is citizens. But anyone can put a property in citizens. Anyone can put a property in the California Fair Plan. Anyone can put a property in the Fair Plan of Massachusetts. That is not a challenge, and you can't pat yourself on the back for that. You better be bringing something else to the table. And that's the conversation I want to have with agents and brokers. It's like, yes, bring that conversation to the table. Reacquire trusted advisor status. You know how to do this. I'm on Insurance Soup. I go on Facebook. I want you guys know how to do this with auto and with fire, and you guys are very skilled at risk management and giving advice to your client, just not on natural catastrophes. You guys are really bad at it.
Well,
So
you could take that even further. Yes, natural catastrophe, you're right. And as a former agency owner and a former broker and a former, producer, account manager, I wore a lot of hats. I would admit I was very much, in the dark, so to speak, of natural catastrophe myself. But I think you could take that further, even with cyber, or even with
yes,
things, other coverages. Like, I don't know how many times I missed the opportunities. I missed the boat because I wasn't an advisor, so to speak, on things as little as or as simple as water sewer, sewer backup, the water line coverage. You could talk about equipment breakdown, cyber liability. You could bring up EPLI on commercial lines. You could bring up, all kinds of coverages that people don't necessarily push because they're trying to get the cheapest price. Let's get the auto liability. Let's get the property. Let's get the basic coverages out the door so we can compete with Geico. Instead of, let me add value of why you're paying more.
Completely. And listen, I watch brokers and agents have these conversations. So
Yeah.
I was consulting for a startup firm that was going to get heavy in parametric coverage. Parametric coverage is something that is completely foreign to agents and brokers. I mean, it's, some in your audience going to be like, "Oh yeah, I know what that is." I will tell you, I've spoken to so many agents and brokers, and they had agents and brokers on staff, and I had to educate them on how to sell parametric. A parametric product is not an indemnity product. There's no loss that's associated with it. It's an economic recovery. It is the wind speed hits a certain mile per hour at some certain spot, you get a payout. The flood depth gets to a certain height, you get a payout. I watched as brokers began to try to sell parametric and quickly quickly pulled it back because they were just like, when I talked to them afterwards, it's like, I did not want to jeopardize that transaction by introducing parametric. So they didn't. But it's like, in Florida with a 5 or 10% deductible, you absolutely have to introduce parametric. They have not gotten there, and so they're stuck in this cycle of like, the renewal comes up, just shotgun it, market it to everything, and the customer is likely to buy the cheapest price. And it's like, that is not how you advise. That's not what a trusted advisor does.
I completely agree. And so, one of the things that, I talk about a lot when I'm consulting with producers and I'm talking to people is added value and bringing that value to the table and understanding that we're not here to sell a price. And I've said it before 100 times on my show. So hang on a minute, audience. But if you've been selling on price for the last 15 years and price alone, you're in a lot of trouble right now. And so right now, we've got to figure out a way to help our clients understand why they come to us, why they're paying a little bit more, because they're going to pay more regardless, because the rates are going up. But if you can show them, here's why you're paying more. I've added these coverages. I put this in place. I'm looking out for your best interest here, here, and here. And whether it's natural catastrophe related or it's cyber related or it's any other coverages or added value somewhere else within the playing field of insurance, I think you've got to bring that value to the table or you're just another commodity. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at a mid-roll ad. I want to talk to you about my good friends over at Manscaped. Manscaped is precision engineered tools for your family jewels. And it is starting to get cold outside finally. In Arkansas, it has finally dropped below 100. But that doesn't mean you get to just let everything go. You still need to maintain your beard. You still need to maintain your hair and make sure you're looking good because no one wants to look at you with unruly facial hair and just nasty, wiry hairs coming out of your nose and your ears and your eyebrows. You still got to maintain. So go to manscaped.com. And when you go to checkout, you can check out all their products, first of all. They've got products for your face, for your nose, for your ear. They got, stuff for your nether regions, for your chest and your back hairs. They've even got deodorants and colognes and all kinds of things. You've got to check it out. When you do, go down to checkout and type in the code MAYOR and you'll get 20% off plus free shipping. You got to check that out. Also, make sure you go to my good friends over at Old School Marketing. Old School Marketing is exactly what it is. They take an old school approach to marketing with direct mailers and do it in a new school way. And they found a way to do it that works. And it is highly successful. And the agents that have signed up, the agency owners have signed up for Old School Marketing, and then they've called me and been like, "Oh my God, Heath, where have these people been my whole life?" And it's just been a game changer for their agency. And so you've got to go to oldschoolmarketing.com, OLDE School Marketing, and check them out, or go check them out on Facebook or LinkedIn. You are going to be so happy that you did. Now let's get back to the show.
I could not say it better. It's everything you just described. If agents or brokers that are listening to this have been successful selling on price, or hey, let me quote your policy. I might be able to save you some money. Or like I have the most markets kind of situation where they might actually been able to get negotiate a better price, but those markets have like completely collapsed down. You are now a commodity. You are now extremely vulnerable to get poached by a broker or by an agent that is literally having conversations and talking about it. And this is what I went through in my presentation. Can you describe the type of wind speed that's going to occur at a property? Right. So if you have, let's take my home in Naples, I'll tell you there's 0% probability. I'd have zero confidence that my broker would be able to tell me any information about the severity of the peril that I would be dealing with. If I asked, what is the probability of a flood reaching my property? He would not be able to tell me. What if he could tell me the probability, and I would say, okay, well, what's the depth of that flood? He would not be able to tell me. And to me, that's brass tacks. To me, if you are an agent or a broker dealing with clientele in Florida, in California, in Louisiana, in Long Island, Cape Cod, Massachusetts, Delmarva Peninsula, Kiowa Island, South Carolina, and you cannot communicate that, you're a commodity because you will be very vulnerable. Just think about the situation. Who has the advantage? An agent that says, I have access to most of the major markets and I can get you the best deal, or an agent that says, I also have access to all of those same markets and I can slide a report over to you that
Yep.
tells you that your home has going to have a 1 in 100 year probability of a 50% damage because the wind speed is going to be 140 miles an hour. Oh, by the way, that same storm is probably going to put 4 feet of water in your property, and you're going to be out of that home for 8 months minimally. Or think of it like a business owner. Your business is going to be shut down for 8 months, right? Like
Yeah.
that is insight that the property owner doesn't have. And I did have a light bulb moment speaking to, an executive of an insurance company who when we discussed this particular topic said, I asked my broker for this, and Heath, this was a top 10 broker. I asked my broker for this, and they gave me a CoreLogic report that said I was exposed to severe wind and severe flood. And he's like, that wasn't helpful because like I knew that already. It was a coastal
That's like
property.
Captain Obvious. Yeah.
Like I knew that already. It's like how severe, how bad, and you in my presentation, Heath, I had I tried to be amusing about it, but I had a person walking over hurdles. That's how low the bar is. Like if I were doing this, I would go all the way to like what Marsh Risk Consulting was doing, which was they were creating probabilities of loss for Walmart and some of their really big accounts. I don't think an agent needs to do that. Using a hazard hub or a better view, like really off the shelf type of products, they can answer the question, you have exposure to flood. Here's your exposure to flood. Here's the
Right.
probability. Here's the
Yep.
depth. Here's the type of storm that would cause that. That's all you need to do. The bar is that low. That's all they need to do.
Well, that's, you bring up a good point of a lot of people listening right now. If you're still with me, I'm just kidding. No, but those that are listening right now and you're hearing us geek out on this stuff, you don't have to know it backwards and forwards. If you could just memorize some key points, just understand at a high level, like you said, the bar is low. I think you're
You
going to
can
set yourself.
outsource it, Heath. You can
Yeah.
outsource it. You can outsource it to someone like me, right?
So,
So that's
yeah,
there. My recommendation to agents and brokers is like, listen, if you're an agent in Florida, let's say in the Naples area, no, let's say the Miami area.
yeah.
You're more likely to have agents that are there. Like you should be able to talk confidently about historical events that occurred in Miami and how devastating they were. So the 1926 Great Miami Hurricane, which if that event were to occur today, I don't know if there would be an insurance market in Florida because we're talking Hurricane Ian last year was about a $50 billion event. If you look at the projections of 1926 hurricane and if it were to occur today, it's possible insurable losses could hit $150 billion.
I don't doubt
Like
it.
just
Yeah.
absolutely devastating to the insurance market in the state of
So
Florida. You should be able to speak intelligently about that
you
event and what would happen if that event occurred today.
You're 100% correct. And even, okay, I would even say, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong on this. So I live in Little Rock, so I don't have coastal. So people there listening, it's like, I don't live coastal. I'm not paying attention anymore. Well, listen up again. Because again, I live in Little Rock. We just had in March our largest tornado we've had hit Little Rock in I don't know how long. You may or may not have heard about it in Florida, but it was massive. And there's still blue tarps everywhere in the state of
Yep.
Arkansas in Little Rock. So massive. So this is a great opportunity for agents and brokers to become that trusted advisor. Say, guys, because that's people are going to remember that for years. So next year when you're coming those renewals, but hey, guys, we thought this would never happen to you. We thought this never happened to us. We just had a massive tornado rip through. Here's some things I've been thinking about as regards to your home that we need to put into place. Here's some, we need to raise this, or we need to, raise these liability levels. We need to lower the deductible on this. We need to do this. We need to think about these things because of this storm, and it can actually happen to you. And I think if you can come at it from that angle instead of, the price angle or whatever it might be, I think you're going to set yourself apart from the guy down the street.
Can you imagine an agent in the Arkansas area that is on Facebook, is on TikTok, has a blog, maybe even has a podcast, right? And what are they talking about? They're not talking about how to get the cheapest price of insurance. Maybe they have an article or two on that, like here's how you should be thinking about shopping for
Yeah.
insurance. But can you imagine that agent and their Facebook articles and their blog articles are Little Rock.
Yeah.
Tornado in Little Rock is not the
Yeah.
Arkansas is in Tornado Alley. It, it
100%.
absolutely it absolutely should have been on the radar, and it should be something that agents should have been talking about, right? You know what else is Little Rock is exposed to that
Tell me.
maybe a lot of folks don't realize? Little Rock is in the New Madrid earthquake zone. If a New Madrid earthquake occurred today,
Yes.
like the ones that occurred in the 1811 or 1812, something like that, you know, those were the largest earthquakes to occur in the contiguous 48 states, larger than any earthquake that occurred in
Yeah.
California. It was like 8.5 on the Richter scale. Do you know the devastation that would occur in Little Rock? Imagine if you were an agent and you're talking about that. Is that going to get your clientele to buy earthquake insurance? Probably not.
Maybe
You know
not,
what
but
it's going to make you look like a trusted advisor. It's going to make you look like you know what the hell you're talking about
you're exactly
around
right.
risks around their property. So now think of those tornadoes that just occurred in those blue roofs. Think about the difference between the average agent and the agent that was blogging about tornadoes and hail and severe storm and flood. I mean, doesn't the Mississippi River flow right by Little Rock, Arkansas?
Sure does.
So flooding, like this is all on the table. It's low-hanging fruit. And you know what? If you do it the right way, you can make it very interesting because people actually like this it's like Discovery Channel. If you don't think this stuff is interesting, then how is Discovery Channel and National Geographic, like how are they still in business? People are actually
100%.
you can actually write about this. You can actually talk about this in such a interesting and engaging way that your clientele will want to listen to it. Your prospects will want to listen to it, and they'll be like, "I want that guy as my broker, or
Yeah,
that woman as my broker."
100%. And so I'm sitting in, I went through a couple of different speaker sessions while I was in Florida, and I don't get to do that very often. So I was pumped I got to do it. Now I sat through one with a gentleman who did a whole thing on cyber. Now that I don't want to go through this, but I did it because, I'm there. I might as well learn something. And it was fascinating him going through scenarios and how this could actually hit your business and how it could do this. And I'm sitting here thinking, as a small business owner, wow, I never thought until I heard that guy's session, this could never happen to me. But he was like, no, they're targeting small businesses now. And people that are hacking into business and doing this cyber, crime, they're targeting small business, not just Target, not just Walmart, but small business. And I'm like, oh, smack, I got to look at this for my own good.
Oh, Heath, you have no idea. For those that are listening, right? Like how important cyber is. Like you can, if you're selling BOPs and CPPs, you're selling,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you're in the commercial side of this stuff. You cannot call yourself a trusted advisor unless you understand the cyber ramifications. So you need to understand the AI ramifications of your clients. How can you possibly uh, translate complex policy language in a way that they feel as though that their business is covered if you don't understand cyber? It is a huge risk to them and growing. I don't know if Heath, you know this or your audience, but quantum computing is making massive inroads. And I don't think people understand all of this encryption technology that we rely upon today basically becomes meaningless once quantum computers come through. It would take a normal digital computer a million years to break some of these complex encryption coding systems. It could take a quantum computer hours to get this out. So absolutely, this is like what I'm trying to communicate to agents and brokers is like you need to step up your game, and depending on the niche that you're in, personal lines, commercial lines, it's a low bar for you to get trusted advisor status, but you need to be communicating. And I think I still think insurance is very much a relationship business, but the relationship has changed, and you need to meet your clients where they are, and they are in the digital realm. You need to meet them there. That's where they want to consume information. They don't want to, they don't want to talk on the phone about how to save 15% on car insurance. They don't want to do that. They want you to have the answers all prepared for them ahead of time.
Oh yeah, they want them to feel like you read their mind. They're like, oh, how do you know I was worried about that? Because you have your finger on the pulse, you know what all of your clients are thinking about and wondering about. And I couldn't agree with you more on that. And there's so much, again, that we could rabbit trail on and talk about and get into for another 30 minutes. But I looked up like, holy smokes, it's almost, been 45 minutes. So, as we continue talking through this, the other part of it that I think, could be applicable, is that the right word? Applicable
Yeah.
to my audience here, would be, okay, so again, going back to blending our conversations from Florida, or our talks, that added value of bringing in, let's say, maybe you're not with us on the flood and the natural disasters, and maybe you're not with us on some of that and the coverage and stuff. But let's talk now about adding value from the standpoint of, risk management in the sense of how to prevent these things and what you can bring into play, like, safety trainings,
Mhm.
OSHA trainings. You could bring in, to talk to people about, okay, why do you need 2 million in workers' comp or 1 million in workers' comp instead of 500,000? Because this, and here's how we can prevent you from having certain claims. Or, why do you need this coverage? Here's why you need it. And then here's what I've developed, something low hanging fruit, as you like to say. And I love
Completely.
that, is a training manual, an onboarding manual, a handbook. Let's call it an employee handbook. That's something you could implement tomorrow. Maybe they haven't updated theirs in 20 years. You come in and say, hey, with the Lamparelli agency, we're willing to come in and help you write your employee
Mhm.
handbook to put in policies to prevent certain claims.
Completely.
Low hanging fruit that you could do
Low
right
hanging
now
fruit.
to be a
Yeah.
better trusted advisor.
Yep. You nailed it. Workers' comp, fire. Um, you probably have folks in your audience that are doing, life accident and health. There's a lot of advice
Yeah.
that you can give on that end as well. And so that's my big push is like, if you want, listen, if you're not a trusted advisor, you're a commodity. So if you're a
Yeah.
commodity, your business is vulnerable. You want to be a trusted advisor, listen to Heath and myself in this particular conversation. This is how you
Yeah.
do it. Like you have
Uh,
to, Anthony Iannarino, who has, master Yoda sales trainer, which I
yeah.
think a lot of your audience is probably familiar with.
Yeah.
He talks about being a trusted advisor a lot, and he said you need two things. You need to bring advice, right? So you have to
Yeah.
have like some sort of, you have to have like wisdom or insight about your
Right.
customers or prospects' business or home or property or risks. So you have to bring that kind of advice. And with that advice, you will get trust.
Yep.
That's how you
Yep.
become a trusted advisor. It's not rocket science. So you just have to step up your game, and the bar is very low.
All right. So, okay. Here's one of the things that it kills me. And maybe you can help me on this and help the
Yeah.
audience to understand. Okay. So, the common phrases that people use, or the common terminology people use to say that they are, why you should come to my agency. For example, and I want to hear if you have, one of these, we can go back and forth on this, but I hear people say, like their value add or their value pitch is, we are wonderful at customer service. That one right there. If you're using that as your value pitch, find something else, because everybody says customer service. What's another one you've heard?
That's a common one. There's one here in Florida that still on the radio that does talk about how we can get you the best price.
Yeah, price.
Uh,
Yeah,
and it's shocking. It's like their marketing, their advertising agency is doing a horrible job because that can't possibly work, or maybe it does work and they're getting a ton of leads off of this. I don't know. It's that kind of stuff. It's the phony our clients are something to the effect of our clients are our friends, or
yeah,
they're our family kind of thing. It's like that's kind of icky.
Yeah, it's very icky. The other one you brought up earlier, and you stole my thunder on this one, but I think I hear a lot of people say, we've got every market under the sun, or we've got over 100 markets. And you look behind them and there's plaques all over the wall.
No one
and
cares.
No one cares. Because again, at the end of the day, you can't feed all those markets. You're not going to keep them anyway. And they don't know who those are. I bet 90% of your clients out there probably have no clue who Auto Owners is, or they don't know who State Farm is, or State Auto. They don't know who Travelers. Yeah. Like you've got these markets and they don't know their names. So if you just talk about from a standpoint of value instead of customer service or lowest price or every market under the sun or our clients are our friends, you're going to do a whole lot better.
Yeah, completely. I was actually listening to a Anthony Iannarino podcast interview this morning. Someone was interviewing him for one of his books, and he talked about like how in his sales training, he will go through your slide deck and he will say, you must remove every possible mention of yourself or your company or how long you've been in business. Nobody cares. And I get it. Like you want to establish some sort of credibility. And his methodology for this, I think, is just spot on. Is you come in bazookas blazing on now. His is mostly B2B focused, so this will be commercial. But I can see a personal lines angle to this. But on a B2B, it's like you come in guns blazing and you tell those execs on the other side, this is what's going on in your business. This is what's going on in your industry. We see a cross section of the businesses and we know like what's happening to supply chains. Think of the pain points that your customer is thinking about with inflation. What's this Israeli conflict going to happen to oil prices? How is that going to affect, my supply chain? How is that going to affect my commercial auto, right? And the fleet and the expense of that. When I heard that, he wasn't even gearing that towards an insurance conversation. I immediately went there and I said,
yeah,
ooh, that is so much more valuable than the typical commercial sales pitch on we've been in business for 50 years and look at all of our plaques.
That's another good one. Yeah. We've been in business for 50 years. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like I don't think people care. It's admirable. I get that.
It's admirable.
If that's your value add only, you got problems.
No, that can't be the value add. That's the supporting. Sure. That's the hey, we create this value, and the reason we can create this value is because we've been in business for 50 years, and we own the upstream energy drilling niche, and we've been doing it for 50 years. We know the ins and outs, we know the supply chain, we know the economics around it. We generate reports from economists from Goldman Sachs that are telling us what's going to happen. We got our finger on the pulse of what this Israeli conflict is going to do to the Saudi. Like, holy crap! Like that.
That's somebody I want to work with.
Those are not even close to similar conversation. One is you've shown up and you've created value.
Yeah, you're creating value.
You created value for that person. They did not waste an hour of their time meeting with you. And the other one is the same sales pitch everyone else is giving, and they can't figure out you from Joe Schmo in terms of the value that you create. It's night and day dynamic around that, and that is very much, Heath, like what we were talking about, very much where I think the agency system needs to evolve back to, because back in the day, that was part of my presentation at the PIA of Florida, was like, you folks used to do this. I showed a picture of knob and tube wiring, and I said, what is this? And there were like 4 people up front, and they're like, knob and tube wiring. And I'm like, well, why is that a problem for your customers? And they're like, fire exposure. Like, okay, so you already know that if they have knob and tube wiring, this is going to be problematic for them. Of course, my next slide was the picture of the house burning down and that little girl, that meme where she's smiling. And I'm like, see, you could tell them, you told them so. You can give them advice up front. You know how to do this. You know what a pool without a fence means. Bingo. You know what a trampoline means. Like you're already doing this. You just have to step up your game.
Agreed. Low-hanging fruit. I love that. And I think, that may be the title of this episode. But anyway, I I love this conversation. I could have this conversation a million times. So we'll have to have you back on again because I know our buddy Brett, who's a regular on this show, was dying to get in this conversation. We'll have to bring him on with us again sometime and geek out again or nerd out. My bad. We'll nerd out on some stuff here. But
yeah, we're nerds. We're not geeks.
Right, nerd out. So guys, if you want to learn more about insurance nerds, if you want to learn more about how to become a trusted advisor, first of all, I would say give this guy a follow on LinkedIn, Nick Lamparelli on LinkedIn, or on social channels, or you can reach out to him. Do you have an email address you could share with the audience of where they could find you if they want to connect?
Completely. First name Nick at INS Nerds. So we took insurance, shrunk it down to INS. Nick at insnerds.com.
So
I
easy.
am on LinkedIn. I am on Twitter. Facebook, I'm not as insurance nerdy.
Yeah.
It's not as well appreciated on Facebook, but it is appreciated on LinkedIn and Twitter.
So find him there. Is there a website for insurance nerds?
insnerds.com.
Okay. And then, find him wherever you can there, connect with him there. And if you've got an idea for a book or for a podcast or a side hustle or something, reach out to this guy here. Or if you just want to have a fantastic conversation just about insurance in general, reach out to Nick Lamparelli, set up some time to visit with him. I'm sure you can get some time on his calendar. I've just recently come in contact with him and, I've already learned so much. Nick, I appreciate you coming to hang out with us, being a part of the show. And my audience, I hope, I'm going to say it live on the air, so it has to come true. I hope you'll see a bigger partnership between Insurance Town and Insurance Nerds.
We're going to make it happen. Drink beer and sell insurance, everybody.
That's right. Coterie Insurance. Oh, my God. I had a great time nerding out with my main man, Nick Lamparelli. I hope you guys did too. Thank you for joining us today on the program. And if you've got an idea for your own podcast, again, check out Insurance Nerds, INSNERDS.com, and see if they've got some ideas for you. See if it's a possibility for you to have a insurance podcast or a podcast in your neighborhood or for your niche or just in general. These guys want to help you. And if you've got an idea for a book, or maybe you've got an idea for a book for your niche, check that out too. I've known some people that have done that and been very successful with that too. And guys, that's not a paid advertisement. It's just me talking about my main man, Nick. Guys, thank you so much. If you have any more ideas for guests or for show topics, email me at heath@insurancetownpodcast.com or hit me in my socials or text me 501-908-2395. That's my personal cell. Just don't call me breathing late at night. Breathing heavy late at night. Guys, thank you again so much. We are coming up fast on 200 episodes, and I've got some surprises and excitement there for you. All right, I think I'm done. Again, thank you so much. I look forward to hanging out with you again next week.